Good morning, everyone, and welcome at the Clear Media offices and also the people following from the live stream. Today we are hosting a session on Microsoft Copilot. And my name is Thomas. I'm the product manager of Microsoft here at Clear Media. The presentation of today will be twofold. So the first part I will be hosting and will be more informatical, technical thing on how to start selling Copilot, what are the prerequisites for Copilot. And then later on, Hans will take over and give you all the fancy demos that you crave so much. So for my part, what we will do today is I'll give you a short history lesson on the evolution of AI within Microsoft. Microsoft has been working with AI for a very long time. Even remember the small paperclip, that's some form of AI. But as of 2016, it has been accelerating. Then we'll talk about, okay, what is Copilot now? Let's give you an overview of the product, the pricing that we have here at Clear Media, and the prerequisites that are needed. Then I'll give you some sort of go-to-market plan, how you as a partner can get ready to start selling Copilot. Some challenges you should keep in mind as you start selling these, and also, of course, some opportunities for you as an IT partner. Then I will quickly explain to you how Clear Media can help you along the way as your trusted partner. And then I'll give you lots of resources that you can use in your quest to start selling it. And then we'll go on with the demos. Short history, bear with me here, but it's a very timeline. It basically started in 2016 when OpenAI and Microsoft made their structural partnership. In 2019, Microsoft decides to invest $1 billion in OpenAI, and then it goes really fast. And I think the most important thing is December 2022, where ChatGPT 3.5 was launched. And that launch was very public. Everyone got to know ChatGPT and saw the potential it had. And then you see we go really fast in the development. In February of 2023, Microsoft announces an AI offering built on the ChatGPT foundation. And in that same month, Microsoft says, okay, we launch Bing Chat, which is basically ChatGPT integrated within the Microsoft suite. A month later, Microsoft says, okay, we'll be announcing something called Copilot. And then in November, it got available for enterprise customers directly managed by Microsoft. At the end of last year, it was kind of uncertain, even for us as a distributor, like when will Copilot be available for SMB market? And then out of the blue, for us, to be honest, and for Microsoft, for some of Microsoft as well, came Copilot generally available for SMB with no minimums or limitations in January. That's where we are today. So I'll quickly run you through it. I'll have a short video that kind of compromises everything that Copilot is. It's from Microsoft, so it's very fancy.
Whoa. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop. Stand still, that's the motto. Yeah. Brand new bands for the auto. Whoa. Foot to the ground, full throttle. Big energy for the night like lotto. Y'all talk lots, never this quiet. Life like a Seinfeld plot. Ball full of songs, all of them bombs. Something like a minefield guy. Boom. Get it, tickets running out quick. Bet it, never get it outbid. Said it, never had to shout it. They said I couldn't ever do it, okay, how's it? Fit a week worth of work in a minute. Machine well oiled, you know how I stay efficient. To-do list written, I do this different. Hold up, wait a minute, I ain't finished. Okay. Look, flows the same now. Paved the way, the snakes and fakes are chased out. Back to back to back, I changed the pace now. Had to stack the cash until the bank's out. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop.
All right, so that's an overview of Copilot. And basically, Copilot is integrated within the whole Microsoft suite, and you can do lots of things with it. For example, I'll give you quick examples in Word. You can say, for example, in a Word document, create me a summary of the document to share as a recap within my organization and to get me up to speed. So then Copilot will analyze the document and give you a summary. Or, for example, rewrite this paragraph because I don't like the way it sounds. Or create custom graphics that are matching what is in my document. Within Excel, for example, you can say, okay, I have this table, make all cells red where the value is under 1,000, or make me a table combining these two inputs together or any questions on the insights. You can, for example, ask, give me the most profitable product that we sold in February, and then Copilot will check the file and give you the output. In PowerPoint, for example, you can ask, as you've seen in the video, give me a 5-slide presentation based on this Word document that contains info and includes some relevant stock photos. Consolidate this presentation into 3 slides instead of 10. Reform these bullets in columns with a picture, and so on. These are just some examples. Later in the demos with Hans, you will see what it will do in real life. And Copilot in Outlook, which is amazing. You can say, OK, there's a long email thread with conversation, and then you can ask Copilot, please give me a summary and bring me up to speed, and also write a response. And you can even say, I want this response to be short, in a friendly way, and I want this to be in Dutch and English, for example. And it can do that right along. So quickly, how does it work? This is a bit technical, but bear with me. This is a beautiful graph from Microsoft. But just to give you an example, how does this system work? So you start within your apps, and you start with what we call a prompt. So you ask Copilot to do something for you. You can, for example, say, give me the most profitable product in this table in Excel. So what happens then, it sends the prompt to the system, and then the system starts looking within Microsoft Graph, that is basically the connection of all your files, starts looking, OK, he's asking me about this product and the most profitable thing, and he starts digging all your files, all your content. And then, at the same time, there's this large language model, and that is responsible for generating the actual textual response. Those two models interact with each other back and forth until they are satisfied and say, look, we think we have the answer, and then we push it back to the app in the response, and also gives a command to the app. For example, it can give you a result, but also can actually make a graph in Excel, for example. So it actually manipulates the app as well to give you a result. That's basically how it works. For customers, this is all they see. This is the service boundary. All of this is in the background and is being done in 20 seconds. And then it goes back to your apps, and then you can start, then you continue. So a short overview of what it is actually an AI-powered productivity tool that coordinates large language models, all your files, and the 365 apps, providing you real-time assistance like a Copilot to enhance your productivity, your creativity, and skills. You can ask it a lot of things, summarize this mail chain, analyze this table. Also, for example, in Teams, when did I discuss our new marketing campaign, and what were the main action points that were defined? So Copilot can listen to your meetings in Teams, have a transcript of what is being said, and then you can ask it who said what and even in what tone. You can ask what was the vibe in the meeting, and then Copilot can say, Yuri was a bit annoyed in the beginning because he used these and these and these words, but then it got better. So that's how far it goes. It is fully integrated in the M365 suite, so it interchanges knowledge and bridges the apps. So if you ask something in PowerPoint to create a table, it can start digging in Excel, for example, and put it in PowerPoint. And there's lots of variations within the offering. So the main thing we talk about today is Copilot for M365. That's for business customers, relevant for us. There's also something called Copilot Studio. It's quite expensive, but that allows you to actually start creating your own GPTs and your own AI environment. So this is also maybe an opportunity for partners. If you want to dig into this and basically develop ChatGPTs for your customers or for yourself, you can do that. Copilot Pro is for personal use. Very, very, very weird naming from Microsoft, but this is the personal license. So not within the B2B context, but if you have a personal or a family Microsoft license, and if you want to purchase Copilot, it's called Copilot Pro. And then Copilot Dashboard, that is a free add-on within Power BI Pro, is basically your dashboard. Okay, what's happening in Copilot? Who's asking these prompts? What kind of apps are responding, and so on. Of course, there are many more because you have Copilot Sales, Copilot for Dynamics. For every Microsoft app, there is a Copilot layer and Copilot add-on, but these are just a few. Speaking of what we do at Clear Media, the pricing and the licensing. Important to know as a partner that Copilot is only available in a yearly commitment with a total payment upfront. There is no monthly subscription possible. And we have established a partner price for 314.72 euros with a suggested end user price of 337.20. There is no seat minimum, as opposed to what it used to be. Before, you had to buy at least 300 seats, and that was for enterprise customers. There's no minimum. There are some prerequisites in order for you to start deploying Copilot. You have to have a minimum of this license. So Copilot is an add-on you plug onto a license. So you can plug it onto a business standard and premium, an Office 365 E or A license, so A is for faculty, and M365 E or A licenses. Users must also have a Microsoft Entra ID, the former Azure ID, and this is in order to make Copilot interact with Microsoft Fabric to check all the files and to link with the language models. Also a OneDrive, because if you are operating on a physical server, for example, Copilot cannot go grab the information, so your files need to be in a digital environment. And SharePoint Premium, we strongly recommend, because within SharePoint Premium, you can start labeling your data and your sensitivity, which is important, as I'll explain to you later. That's a bit the overview of how we priced it. What do you need in order to start deploying it at your customer site? Now I'll give you a bit of guidance. Okay, now that we know what Copilot is, it costs quite a lot of money, to be honest. How can I, as a partner, go to the market with this? How do you start selling Copilot? And my first advice is start within your own organization. I think this is the time to practice what you preach. Copilot is very new. It is very interesting to start deploying it within your own organization and check what are the learnings. And then once you know, okay, what are the ins and outs, with that knowledge, you can go to the customer and say, okay, this is how we did it. This is how we use it as a company. We know that this works, that this doesn't work. Let's start there. But Copilot comes with quite a preparation phase. Because as I told you in the beginning, it's a very strong tool, and it can dig for files. It can maybe go after files that you maybe don't know that exists anymore. It's somewhere on a shared SharePoint or a shared OneDrive. And you don't know that it's there because maybe you forgot it's a legacy, it's a file of 4 years ago, but Copilot is smart and it can actually start digging everything. So it's very important that you do a data check. Okay, is my data labeled? What are sensitive documents and what are not? Because for example, if you would just deploy it in your own organization, I can just type in, give me the person with the highest salary range in 2023 within Clear Media. And Copilot can start digging in the files that are matching those requirements. So if you don't have your data labeled, then of course the model will integrate it. So that's something that you need to do. Prepare it, start labeling. And this is where SharePoint Premium comes into place. It has a very convenient labeling system. If you centralize it everywhere and then start saying, okay, this is confidential or this is restricted for this group of people, then you're good to go. You also need your governance, access policies, who can access which files, and what are some internal rules. Can, for example, only management access these types of turnover files in Excel or not? Check your security measures. How is my general security? And know that restricted access control and conditional access features are coming very soon, but not yet available for Copilots. But Microsoft is working on them very hard to implement those, which will also help with the previous 3 ones. But know that if you start deploying Copilot, this phase is very important. Once you've done your homework, you just order the desired amount of add-ons for your tenant. And then you start deploying. There is a Copilot setup guide. So once you've done your internal homework and you decide, okay, I want to buy 10 licenses, then you can follow this guide. Of course, I will share the link. That will give you a step-by-step explanation of, okay, how do I map these licenses to the users? How do I make sure they are deployed correctly and so on? It's quite easy, but you need to follow it. After a while, you'll get used to it, and then you can start deploying it with your customers as well. And then it's up to you to test Copilot's abilities. What does it give? Please note, for now, that Copilot is only available in English, so you can only ask it something in English, and it will answer to you in English, but it can already analyze content that is not in English. So for example, I have a Word document that is written in Dutch, and it talks about the weather forecasts for the next 7 days. Then I cannot ask Copilot, geef mij het weer voor dinsdag. I can ask him, give me the weather that's expected for Tuesday, and then it can analyze it, even though it's in Dutch, and then it will give you an English response back. So something in the works. Dutch will come quite soon, but know that this is the situation for now. If you start selling this to customers, they will most likely say, okay, it's around 30 euros a month, and my license is around 16, 19 euros. That's insane. That's 0.25 times, doubling or almost tripling my investment. And then you can basically say, what are some selling points of using Copilot? And there it's all about productivity. 70% of people that use it claim to be more productive. 68% say, okay, it improves my quality of work. 64% say, I spend less time processing emails. 75% says, less time that I waste searching for info and files. This is your key element. An average user saves around 10 hours a month on time of work. And then you can start asking the question, okay, an investment of around 30 euros, if you divide it by 10 hours, 3 euros an hour, that's quite interesting, because usually it's worth way more. Just to go to the market, you target your audience, you start building a campaign, you execute it, you connect with your partner, and then either you close the deal and you nurture the relationship, or a customer is still on the verge, then you go to one-on-one engagement. But I go deeper into that in the next slide. So let's say from teaser to contract. First thing you want to do if you want to start selling Copilot is identify your target audience. You base that on the knowledge of the IT environment. They are your customers, so you probably know, okay, they are already cloud native or they're still on-premise. That's where you see, okay, what's the low-hanging fruit? Which customer is as close to ready to deploy Copilot than another customer who is, for example, not in the cloud yet? You can also use Microsoft Lighthouse for that. That will give you an analysis of your customers and say, okay, we think this has the potential for a Copilot sale, but no, it's based on a model. You know your customers best, so trust your gut feeling, but know that you can use Lighthouse to start building it. Then you start creating online buzz. We have lots of marketing assets available that we will share with you as well, that you can just put your logo on and maybe specifically tweak it for the market here, because of course Microsoft is a very American corporate company. And we will also start providing extra content that fits also for you to use at end user side. So for example, podcasts that are focusing on Copilot, on AI will be available to you in the future. Then you start engaging. Once the buzz is there, it's best to start guiding the customer and not just selling. Provide some training, some demo sessions, webinars, online content. Again, Clearmedia can be a partner in that. And then aim for the deployment. And once you start deploying Copilot, you want to aim at departments or groups, not individuals. Why? Because it's way more interesting, the result that comes out of a deployment, not just by one guy testing it in a company, but let's say a sales team in a company. Because that gives way more interesting results. They interconnect. And there you can see the added value for a total team, rather than just one individual who can make analysis of Excel files, for example. That's the aim. Of course, it aims to sell more, but there's truth in it. If you start deploying it within a business and it's quite large, aim for a department that you target or a group of people where you deploy licenses for all those people in that group. And know that after deployment, you need to nurture the relationship. It's a very expensive add-on. So in order to avoid miscontent or cancellations, it's important to keep guiding partners after the sell to say, okay, how's it going with Copilot? Do you get the expected results that you want or not? Okay, it doesn't really give you the output that you want. Maybe you're doing prompts wrong, or maybe your data labeling isn't correct yet. And that's why the model doesn't work. Some challenges, I'm almost there. Of course, once you start marketing this, there are some data and security concerns. Your internal affairs need to be in order before you start deploying this. There's the investment concern at the customer side. The proportion of the Copilot add-on on the license, it's huge. So aim for the productivity storyline to counter these arguments from your customer. And then there's a language concern. For now, as I already explained, only available in English. Dutch and French will be available soon. My conclusion in this whole thing, Copilot was launched for SMB quite unexpectedly for IT partners and also even for Microsoft Belux. So don't sweat it. Copilot is here now for early adopters, and it's very exciting. It's a very exciting opportunity, but there's no need to rush. You see that Copilot is not fully adapted to our market yet. So great if you have interest in the market, go for it. You have these early adopters. There's time to take your time, but the time is now. AI is here. You can start preparing yourself, do it internally, and so on. But don't sweat it. Don't think like, oh no, I have to start selling this very, very soon, otherwise I miss it. Yeah, there's always going to be early adopters, but there's still some time. Why would you want to sell this as a partner? What are the opportunities for you? Of course, you can see a significant increase of your turnover on the license portfolio. If you are able to map Copilot on your current license portfolio, your turnover will significantly increase. But there's also upsell opportunities. Let's say you have customers that are not on Business Premium or not Business Standard, on just Exchange Online, for example, and they want to use Copilot. You can say, okay, but the requirement to start using it is in a higher SKU. So you can start upselling your current license portfolio within the lower SKU range. Also, collateral sales opportunities. There are lots of prerequisites to deploy Copilot, and those create opportunities for you for extra sales on, for example, cloud, security. If a customer comes to you and asks, I want to start using Copilot, you can make an assessment and you say, but your security measures aren't really in place. So maybe it's good to start adding Microsoft Defender, for example. Or your cloud storage is already at 95%. There's not much more wiggle room for you to expand such a model. Maybe you can start selling extra cloud storage. Also, there's an opportunity for you to create an extra service layer dedicated to AI to boost your margins on the sale of this license. There's a suggested end user price if you decide as a partner to hire it, to raise the price. Sure, you can build an extra service layer on top of that and make a customer pay for a total experience rather than just the deploying of the license. And the last thing, you can frame yourself now as a sort of pioneer in the field of AI. AI is here to stay. You can create as an IT partner the image of AI experts, and then you have the other way around. Then you can draw in customers that specifically look for AI-related business and guidance, and after that you can maybe take over their IT base as well, their licenses that are not necessarily AI-based. What will Clean Media do to help you in all this? We will give you AI-specific content. We have a new communication plan in place to provide more regular updates on Microsoft news and updates. We will have podcasts, blogs that have a strong focus on Microsoft Copilot. And we will have a training offer on AI in general that focuses for you and your end customer. Content. This is the last slide that I have, but it's very important. I'll share this with you, but this is full of content that you can use. A campaign slide deck, a briefing document, some email templates, a pitch deck that you can use at your customer side, a value calculator that you can see, okay, these are the parameters for my customer. What's the chance that I can start selling Copilot? And also this one, there's a Copilot technical bootcamp on February 7 and February 8. It's digital, where Microsoft will go in depth on the technicalities of Copilot. For example, yeah, how can I start integrating this within my current IT setup broader than Microsoft, for example. So this is quite important for you as an IT partner to know that you can follow this bootcamp. I'll share this with you, but there's lots to read, lots to use, and then it's up to you, and we will help you along the way. So thank you very much. Now the exciting part, because now we go to demos, and for that I have Hans.
Good. Dank u. Die is niet ingetaste. Ja. Merci. Goed. So, demoing Copilot 365, or for Microsoft 365. At Microsoft, there's this saying that goes, drink your own champagne. So I would strongly encourage you to, if you haven't done it yet, activate a Copilot license in your own tenant. Start experimenting with it. Microsoft for a long time gave these fancy demos, they pre-recorded. So very exciting. So I think we all are waiting impatiently, like, does it work like that in reality? It does. There are things it does not yet do as fancy as in the demos, but a lot of that has to do with what was the subject of the first part of this session, its preparation. I have just let it loose on my tenant without any additional preparation in terms of organizing my data, getting my SharePoint okay, and so on and so forth, because I only have a very small entity. But if you really want to get the most out of it, it's definitely worth starting to guide your customers in that journey of preparation. Meaning, do a bit of a version check. A lot of hard disks and a lot of SharePoint sites are filled with like 20 copies of the same document with different versions and different little things. Now, we need to make allowances for the fact that if you ask something to Copilot, it goes and searches for information that you have access to. And then if it finds like 20 times the same document, one version that is correct and maybe 9 other versions that are obsolete, you may have some, well, less correct answers. So get the data clean. But once, and even before that, it's exciting. Who has been playing with it? You have, of course, yep. So when you activate it, what you will notice is that when you start the Microsoft 365 app, it immediately proposes this Copilot, and that's like where I start my day with. In the beginning, I do admit you have to get used to it, because we all have our traditional ways of working. We go in Outlook, we start looking at the mails that are coming in, and then we start maybe handling them, and you can just start your day by asking here, what mails did arrive this morning? Give me a list, and then work not even in Outlook, but just have this overview. For privacy reasons, I'm not going to do this in my tenant now, but it works. So, and not only for private reasons, but the first mail that was in my list was a reminder of an invoice I had to pay. So, but it does a great thing. But also, what is the latest about, maybe you had a meeting with a colleague and you want to get an update without having to dig into your email and your Teams and your calendar and maybe the meeting notes. You just ask, what is the latest about this colleague? Okay, what have we done? So if I would go here and say like, what is the, so in English, as said, is the latest about Stef van Haverbeke, and I think I spelled the name correct. So let's have a look. So now it's going to find in Teams and in all the resources that it has and that I have access to, it finds what the latest things are. And indeed, so we are working on a document about facilitation. And so if I click here, I will go right into the source where it found that information. And if I say like there must be more, I can just ask, go a bit further back in time and give me some more details, or just get into Teams and get some more details, or get into Outlook and get some more details. The fun part here is that you just do it in native language. So that's a nice way to start the day. And if you are short of inspiration, there is something called the Copilot Lab. And the Copilot Lab is activated the moment you activate your license. And it gives you, for all the areas where Copilot is active, and there are quite some apps, as you see, you can use it in PowerPoint, Word, OneNote, Microsoft Chat, Loop, Whiteboard, Loop, familiar? It's this new like portable collaboration tool that fits perfectly in Teams and Outlook. You can use it in Whiteboard, Excel, and I'll show you around a little bit. But if you're short of what can I ask, this is like a whole array of things that you can ask Copilot. It doesn't really have to be literally what is in here, but it's an idea of prompting. You can use your own language. In the worst case, it may say, like, could you be more specific? But it's just like the way you would ask the question that works. So this is a very interesting one to start and to share also with customers. If they say, how do I use this? Well, this is a good starting point just to play around and discover what it is capable of doing. Now let's dive into a scenario. I had this meeting, and in Teams, so if you have a meeting in Teams, you will launch the recording. That's something you need to do, and the transcription. Recording not necessarily, but the meeting transcription is something you should activate. So after your meeting, it will go into that transcript, and then you can ask things like, make a summary, give me the key takeaways. And it's a very powerful way of not having to re-listen or review the meeting. You can just ask again in native language, what were the key takeaways, what are the things that are to-dos for me. Even if the meeting goes on for a moment, it will also look at the words that are used, and you can scan for how do people feel. It actually works, but it's during the meeting you can ask. I did it in a meeting, and it's amazing. And so the meeting was in Dutch, that's no problem. The meeting transcript was in Dutch. And halfway you say like, okay, what has been discussed so far? Oh, this and that topic. And how do people feel about it? And then it goes in and it says like, well, based on the vocabulary used, I feel that people are kind of like pretty positive about what is going on. So it's quite a nice thing to have as additional information. So what I did, I took the meeting transcript, that was the meeting transcript over here. I'm gonna, in OneNote. So this is what we discussed during the meeting. And the customer asked after the meeting, can you like make a business proposal based on what we have discussed? It's about a presentation training for an organization. And so what I did, I just took the text over here. So let's copy and paste this. And well, a business proposal, we are going to write that in Word. So I launched Word. And in Word, well, you see already the result here, but I'll show you how I got there. So you start like this new document. And this is all live on my tenant. It's nothing, it's just like an improvised demo. And you could say here like, write a formal business proposal based on the meeting report below. And then you just kind of paste the meeting report and you just ask Word to generate this document. So I'm not doing anything now. It's just that we had a meeting and I would like to offer a business proposal. So it now goes through the business proposal. If there are other things that it recognizes from the meeting, it will maybe add it. And so now it's just writing, as you see. So business proposal for improving presentation skills. I'm gonna activate the mouse. And so as we are seeing, it is now doing the work that normally I would do. And it's creating the training content that discussed, the training method that we have discussed. We talked about the practicality. We talked about additional information about budgets and conditions, which we already have documented somewhere. So it's going to add this to the business proposal. And there we are. Okay, so watch out. It's Copilot. It's a Copilot. It's not an autopilot, even though you would get the impression like, hey, this I don't have to do anything anymore. Reread things carefully. Okay. But in general, if your source information is okay, what it generates is okay too. But since it's a business proposal, I may want to reread it and do something. Yeah.
But it is not possible for us to check where the source is.
Well,
Sometimes
it mentions, yeah, indeed. In this case, it is based on the meeting transcript and the meeting notes that I made. So. And in this case, it's just we won't find in the business proposal the sources like with numbers that say, oh, I got this there, I got this there. No, it's basically using what I gave it as text plus the context in which that project is running. So meetings that we had and meetings transcripts, but that's it. Yeah. Then you will have references. Even if I would go back to my Microsoft 365 over here and I would ask like, what is the latest on Steph? So you see there is this little one. So where did he get this? Well, he got this PDF file is where he based that on.
Yeah, the weird thing is I tried it once.
Yeah.
And I went to the link and tried to retrieve the text, literally, what he gave me.
Yeah.
But it apparently wasn't literally and I could not find it. So
Okay.
somewhere in that link,
Yeah.
the text should have been there or at
Yeah.
least some reference to it.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it.
The literal transcription. Well, it's basically what happens is we are working with natural language processing. So it means that you will give an instruction to the system. The system translates it into a series of numbers and tokens. And then it does a semantic search inside. So it goes and looks for information components like text and images and whatever it needs. It brings it back and it retranslates that into language. So there may be differences, which is also a reason why you would check the content that is generated. But in general, when it refers to sources, most of the time, at least in my experience, now only like a big week, it's pretty impressive and pretty correct as well. So now we were in that business proposal, so I'm not going to reread it now, but that's a proposal. So let's say that we save that. And we're going to put it in demo stuff. So it's a training proposal for FEVV version 1, save. And a little bit later, I get a phone call from the customer and they say like, hey, well, you got your business proposal. I read it. We will gather the team inside. Can you come and give a presentation on what you proposed? So I could do that and say like, hey, I'll print out the text and then we will read over it like you sometimes see. But no, I want to have slides. So I could spend like half a day, maybe a day creating slides. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go into PowerPoint and start a new PowerPoint. And since I have Copilot, I can activate Copilot here. So I would like to use the file that I have just made. So let's go back to Word. There's different ways of getting the link. So I'm just going to use this one now to get the link to the document, because I'm going to tell PowerPoint, like, this is the link to use. And I would like you to create like a short presentation with the content. So create a presentation from file. I'm going to copy the link here and say send. And now it's like getting to the document. It's looking at the content of the document. And it's going to make a PowerPoint deck with speaker notes and everything in it. I did this for the first time 2 days ago. Actually, my son was sitting beside me and he's at a university doing studies and also using AI a little bit. And he's saying, yeah, there's also this Copilot thing I saw. What does it do? And I say, okay, I'll give you a short demo. And I take a 33 pages Word document with flat text. I copied from the web, training materials. And I say, let's create a presentation out of this. And it actually delivered a 58 slides Copilot training based on 33 pages of flat text. So this is my presentation. So again, I will take time and read it through, but we have an agenda. It even adds some images every now and then. Okay, there's a lot of text in there because it took the text. I might also have asked, like, rephrase everything more in keywords and put the other things in the speaker notes. But so for every slide, it also made the content and it copied the content. So, I mean, we have been talking for what, 5, 7, maybe 10 minutes now. I got a formal business proposition. I have a presentation that has been generated, and it's just happening, right? So I think when we now start talking with customers and inspiring customers, this is what it's all about. It's just showing them things that really make a difference in real life, things that they actually live with. So, and this could be simply like a process they have, but it could also be an email like, I just received, let's open Outlook. It does only work in the new Outlook, okay? So the old desktop app still, but like Michael sent me a mail in French. I don't really have time to read it, so just summarize it. It turns it into English, and it says that this guy wants to organize an SMB briefing, blah, 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 and he would like to have a call with you. Okay, good. So then I could also say like, okay, let's reply to that email, for instance, and then Copilot will also suggest, like, what would you like to do? Well, I would like to draft a little email, and then I can just say, like, confirm that it's okay for me and that this is the link where they can book a slot in my agenda, and then the text will be written out in a formal way. So you don't have to, like, think about how am I going to put it and what am I going to say. You can just draft it with Copilot, and it's going to happen. If you don't have Copilot yet, these are things you can already play with in the Bing or the Copilot that is integrated in Bing. So if you say like, interesting, I may want to play with that. It will not work in Outlook, of course, but if you go onto your browser and you use Edge, you have this icon on the right here that gives you also a Copilot, but then integrated in the web. And the good thing is that if you combine the two, so I have the Microsoft 365 Copilot license. So what I can do now is tell Bing, this is my professional email address. So I linked the Copilot that goes on the internet to my account. And now I can switch between the work and the web interface. So if I need things from the internet, but I don't want to Google it, I can just ask things, or maybe also write an email, write a report, write something. And if I want it linked to my tenant, I get the work interface, and I can go a little bit like in the home screen of Microsoft 365 and ask questions about content, about emails, about status updates, about things that happen. So meanwhile, the presentation is done, and my boss asked me to have a look at some figures they just sent me. It's just a marketing campaign where we have a budget, where there is revenue, where there were target customers, and then a turnover, a fairly typical thing. Now, the first thing I see is that there is one field with name and surname in one field. Now, I guess you've all had these lists where you say, damn it, I need to split these things out. And who would know by heart what formula to use to get an additional column that takes the surname and the first name apart? Yeah, you.
Not formula, but just go to split data and based on the comma, just.
Yeah. So, but you have to kind of like do the insert the formula, and you have to know it. Formulas may be a big thing, but it's something you need to know. We are like 10 here or a little bit more. Only one person knows this is how to do it. Copilot, you can use it, of course, to analyze data, but you could also use it like in this column, let's say, make an additional column with the first name of the campaign owner. And then, if all goes well, it will now have a look at, okay, this is the campaign owner. It tries to understand the data. It's gathering the formula suggestions. And here is the formula that it would use, but I'm not going to use the formula. I'm just going to say, do it for me and add the column to it. And so now I have the first name column, and I could do the same with the last name, or maybe with other data that is address data where I would like to have the street and the number in separate fields. This is how it works. Now, another thing that interests me here is who is the most successful campaign owner and what is the conversion rate? And because we invested money, we generated revenue, we have targeted users, we have engaged users. So I could maybe start and look at it all myself. I could also just ask add column with the conversion rate in revenue versus budgets. So you see, I did not go to Copilot Lab to find what prompt do I use. No, it's just I'm improvising the instruction that I give. And so I'm going to ask now to insert the column. And so now we see who is performing well and who is performing a little less. And so now I could just ask like maybe a color, the conditional formatting. I mean, these are all things you can do, but if you're new in Excel or you just use it very occasionally, you can just use your natural language, like color the lowest values in red. Now, I didn't specify what values, but we'll see what he does with the values, and it's going to make the changes to the table. And so now we have like immediately a view on the graph. It's conditional formatting it did. I could also have done conditional formatting, create a rule, and every value that is lower than blah, 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 make it work. So the bottom line here is that by just giving simple instructions, you can first analyze data, you can summarize data, you can get data insights. If it's a long table, you could start asking about forecasts and about trends in the data. This table is a little bit short to do the trends, but it gives you valuable information just using your natural language. That's the essential part of the thing. And it serves to help as well. If there's something you want to do and you don't know how, tell me where I can find, it's a bit the Clippy on steroids. The older generation still knows what Clippy was, the office assistant. But this is like the more intelligent. This one went to university, whereas Clippy maybe just finished at 12. So, and always and everywhere, it's just a matter of activating the button Copilot and then giving your instruction. At this moment, it works in tables, so you need to have a table in order to interact with the data. But it's for those of you working a lot with this information, this kind of information is very valuable. And then the same in OneNote. Again, if we look on the Home tab, there's always this colored button. And again, when do I have to restart? Okay, my display settings changed. Unfortunately, I did already a thing. I asked Copilot to just write a little story about AI that I could use to open a meeting or a training on artificial intelligence. This is stuff I used to do with ChatGPT. Now I do it with Copilot. You just ask, write me a little story about. Now you see this is Dutch, and we just heard that it doesn't understand Dutch. I'm a fond user of, and it's everywhere, of this module. It's also AI based. It does way far better work than Google Translate. It's on the same level as things like DeepL, etc. So when Copilot generates stuff in English, I just use this thing here, and it could be a complete document or a page in Word. You can choose translate selected text or translate full text, and it will do it in a nick of time. So if you have like 30 pages with Dutch text and you say, well, maybe I would like to do something with Copilot a little bit more in depth, you can translate it, or vice versa. If Copilot generates an English document and you want to have it in Dutch, you can just translate it. So if we go back to our business proposition over here, this is the training business proposition, but the people at FAVV speak Dutch. So I'm just going to go into translate the whole document, do so from, this is AI avant Copilot, from English, preferably because that's the source, to Dutch, and Dutch is over here, and then translate. And now it's just going to open a new document, and here I have my opleidingsvoorstelling FAVV, actually generated by Copilot in English, because Copilot likes to do it in English at this moment, but in the nick of time, I just turn it into a Dutch. So these are creative ways of really making the output much more than just a, wow, it's able to do that, okay? So we started with a meeting. I turned the meeting notes into a business proposition. The business proposition then went to a presentation that we can use. Same here, this is English. In a nick of time, I can put this in another language if I want, so without having to leave a PowerPoint. Now then there's this meeting. I may want to use a whiteboard. So again, when I launch the whiteboard, there is this Copilot button that is over here this time, where I can ask again, like maybe make a storyboard, make a mood board, make a, let's say, suggest, make a process flow we can interact with for a training session on Copilot. So how could we do that? And so now it's going to use all the things that are actually available in Whiteboard. You have a lot of templates. You can choose them, but you can just ask, this is what I would like to do, prepare something. So it says like, well, when you do this kind of training, you would need an introduction, show some features, have a live demo, do some interactive coding maybe, and open it up for Q&A. Okay, that's good. So now I can start with my team using this one, for instance, in a meeting, and they can all say, for the demo, this is what we need to do, the coding we might do, whatever, and they can start filling this out. Could be a mood board, could be a storyboard, could be a process, a brainstorm, whatever. And it's a good way or another way of using the templates that are available in Whiteboard, but that a lot of people don't use because they don't know where they are. I wasn't a user of Whiteboard, but since it does that, I start seeing use cases where it could be very relevant. OneNote, the same thing. So I already showed you that I had it make a story. This is very ChatGPT-like. Just ask it. OneNote is a very open editor, so you can ask it whatever you want it to do. Now, if we go back to Teams, what we see here in my chat is a chatbot that is also driven by Copilot. And now we are going to take it to the next level. Okay, so you have Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is integrated, that allows you to interact with any kind of data at any moment. But together with Copilot for Microsoft 365, you also get access to the Copilot Studio. And this allows you, I'm not a programmer, I'm not even a technical guy, but I managed to create a chatbot that will only get information out of a specific set of data that I gave it. So imagine in a company you have a manual or a set of manuals and people always ask and call for support or have to look for answers. You can do it with a chatbot. And then you can integrate this chatbot, for instance, in Teams, or as I did, it's actually, this is a chatbot that allows people to interact with a book. So instead of reading the book, you can just ask questions to the book. And the chatbot here is also Microsoft Copilot driven, but instead of doing it within Microsoft 365, I could now open this to my customers. And instead of them having to call support, they can ask their questions and get more information out of the book itself or the manual. This is a book, so again, here you see all these references. Where does it get the information? And if you then hover with the mouse over it, it will bring you to the text where it actually found the information. So it got it from this website in this case, because there's a site and a book that I refer to. You can use this to refer to websites as well. But it's an interesting thing. So let's say, what is the book about? Are questions that have been asked. But you could also say, I am having a difficult conversation with a colleague on a topic we differ in meaning, what are your tips to make this conversation work, for instance? You're preparing for a meeting. So now I'm just using, again, natural language, which is what Copilot does. And in the back is going to go not now in my SharePoint, but in the data that I gave it. And it's coming back with some tips. So in this case, it's quite a lot of tips. But I know the source, so I can also confirm that what it gives as an answer works. And this is done in something that is called Copilot Studio, and it's the way to go beyond the Microsoft 365 Copilot. And if customers say like, oh, we have huge amounts of data and we would specifically like to address that data for support, for training reasons, for anything you can imagine, then this is again an opportunity later on when there's a bit of more maturity to kind of have people live these wow aha moments. And it's like a bit like Power Automate or Power Apps. It's just what you see is what you get. By the way, even in Power Automate and Power Apps, you have Copilot. Who knows Power Automate in Microsoft 365? It's something that, let's say that you create a form. You would like people at lunch, instead of sending emails, what would you like to have? A sandwich with cheese, with bacon, blah, blah, blah. You say, I'm going to create in Microsoft 365 a form. You all know forms in Microsoft 365. Where does it store the sandwiches in Microsoft 365? In an Excel sheet. But wouldn't it be cool if when I order a sandwich, that when I say like, okay, I want to have one with meat, for instance, that I get a nice thank you email that says like, oh, thank you for ordering your sandwich with email. And that at the same time, the order is sent to the local sandwich bar on the corner by email because we agreed that they want to receive this. How would you do that? And you would say, oh, this will require half a day of programming or something. Well, now you can just go, for instance, into your Microsoft 365 account and use Copilot. So if we go into that Power Automate thing, which normally not many people use because it's pretty, let's say, impressive when you start it. But just to show you what it all does, so Power Automate, it's actually just to automate processes. Now I'm going to use natural language to say what it is that I want to do. So make a flow in which data received via my form is sent to, let's say, a SharePoint list and an email to the user. Okay, so this is what I would like to do, like make that something automatic. And so here it is. So it's the only thing you need to do here is say like, oh, it's my sandwich order form, and maybe add the mail that you would like to send below here, send the email, just add the text like thank you very much, and that's it. And then whenever people start using your form, everything happens automatically. Before Copilot, this was, I'm not going to start, very difficult. Now it's just a matter of asking the question, the way we do it in Word, the way we do it in practically every little part of the area that we can use. So what do we remember? Well, first of all, in Microsoft 365, in your opening screen, for me, this becomes gradually, but I'm going to be honest, it requires, I'm still in the consciously competent state. I don't yet do it automatically because I have been working in a different non-Copilot way for many years. Your customers will exactly be in the same situation. Like when they have to use SharePoint instead of just a file thing, it's a different way of working. Like using Teams instead of sending emails, it's a different way of working. So prepare for it. But once you get into it, it is one hell of a way to, in very specific use cases, win an incredible amount of time. All within your data, and that's a good thing because ChatGPT gets the data from anywhere. This gets the data from your tenant, from the things that you work on. And then as you dive into it, the Copilot lab is an ideal place to learn a little bit about, okay, in this app, what is it that I can do? Like in Microsoft Word, write an introduction, summarize a document, summarize a meeting, create an overview, outline a business plan. In a meeting, what are the to-dos for me? Or in the last 20 emails that I received from that person, did I forget something? And it's just going to give you answers back. So play with the different things, and then start enjoying also the creativity of starting with a simple meeting report, PowerPoint presentation, some finances in Excel, and just work with it. And then the next stage for customers could be like, okay, let's build something specifically for you. And this maturity growth will definitely create a lot of aha moments for a lot of people, and generate, I think, quite an amount of business. Because if I look at it, okay, now you have to pay it up front for a year. So when you activate it, it's like close to 400 euros. So a company with 15 users, maybe the owner may say like, oops, that's like a lot of money in one go. But then my question is, what is an hour of work worth to you? We already saw the Microsoft facts and figures, but I was at a presentation some time ago where Proximus, they have been using it with about 300 coworkers, and they also captured feedback. And there, like most of the users say that they easily win up to 20 minutes per day. That's quite impressive. Okay, in the beginning, there's a little learning curve, but if I see how effective I can do certain things as a knowledge worker, I mean, if you're a truck driver, this will be less relevant, but as a knowledge worker, working with email, with document creation, with marketing ideas, with meetings, etc., this is really a game changer. So it will be a matter of showing it and of getting your customers in that story. Are there other challenges you would like Copilot to challenge with, or questions you would, yeah?
I have a question, but it's not before.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's okay.
It's on already?
It's just, yeah, it's just for the recording. So yeah.
I was wondering if Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365 is based on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Is there a limitation or a date to which the data it can search is limited to? Because
yeah, let me just clarify a little bit. So ChatGPT consists of different components. Let's say AI are building blocks. One building block is the data. Right? And ChatGPT uses about 90 million pages of internet drawn from the internet, and they put it in a box, so to speak. And ChatGPT, as we know it, goes in that box, and the data in that box is until April 23 or maybe November meanwhile. And so, but that's the playground of ChatGPT. Microsoft 365 uses the technology of ChatGPT, so the language technology, like I ask something, it's processed, and I get an answer, but it's not going to go into that box that is limited. It's going to go into your data of your company. And your data means every piece of information that you have access to. So your OneDrive, the SharePoint libraries you have access to, your email, but not the email of your colleague. And so all this information, and this goes until the very last moment. So everything that arrives today, that happens today, a minute ago will be in Copilot. Does that answer the question? So there's no limit in answers that you get.
Thank you. And is there a legal framework around M365 Copilot? Because I understand that legal frameworks always come later. Suppose many of our customers were very eager to order M365 as soon as it came out. But as Thomas addressed the issue, it's very important that we guide our customers into using it. So a lot of customers may not have already ordered or organized or structured their data. Which means that obviously they only use a few test cases in the beginning. But suppose a data leak would flow internally within that customer. Are we liable for that in any way?
Well, I think it's the customer's liability. Because if I have like Excel sheets with salary information, and I ask Copilot, can you give me the salary information of my colleagues? So I just want to know it, or my manager or whatever. So it's just a question now, if somewhere in your data that is in SharePoint, it's so it even gives like a thing, it's not going to go there, right? So let's see if we re-ask new chat. Give me the salaries of my colleagues. Let's see, up. Suppose that in my data, there would be a SharePoint library that has that data, but nobody knows that it's there, you know. HR put it there, but they never share the link, so nobody's going to look in that SharePoint for that information because they don't know it exists, but Copilot will know. And then if I ask salary information, it's like when I ask you, when I give you the word elephant, what do you associate it with? Elephant. Animal? Yeah, other associations maybe? Zoo? Africa?
Something big.
Something big?
Big ears.
Big ears? Africa?
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, okay, elephant in the room, yeah. The proverb or something, yeah. Safari? Yeah, the slurf and the... so what I did, I gave you some inputs and you started to make associations. The more associations you can make, the more intelligent you are. Some people will say, oh, it's also Côte d'Or, and Côte d'Or then associates that to chocolate, and chocolate, oh, that brings other things. And so you get this whole array of associations based on the elephant. Now, if I tell something to Copilot, it does exactly the same. It gets my words and it's a semantic search, it's called. It looks for association. So if my data is well organized, I will get very precise and good replies because I facilitate the association exercise. If my data is just like everywhere without particular structure or without folders or without metadata, it's also going to come back with replies. But maybe there will be things that are dropped out, as we all now with our elephant come with different answers. Suppose that we would have half an hour of briefing on the elephant and everything you can associate it with. And then I would ask you again, that's a machine learning part, would ask you again, elephant? Oh, you would come back with, oh yeah, these are 500 associations that I can make with it. And you would have become more intelligent. Copilot, exactly the same. And if you would make an association you would not normally make, but it's a non-controlled environment, and you can say, oh, elephants, yeah, that also brings back whatever memory where everybody is shocked and said, huh, what a weird association is that? Well, that means that would be the same like Copilot, find something in my data. It's not governed, not controlled, but it's something I can associate the question with. So I'm going to give it as an answer. Salary information, confidential information, or whatever. So it is important for your customers if they imagine, I'm having a few of these cases now where people move from the file server, you know, the Z drive and the X drive and to SharePoint. And a lot of times it's just like, I click and it's from the Z drive, boom, all in one on the SharePoint, and we start working with SharePoint now. That's not good to do. Because then everybody can open the files. And of course, I will only go in my folders, and I'm not going to spend half a day looking for other information, unless maybe I'm working in a government organization and have a lot of time. But that's I'm not going to do it. With Copilot, I can do it. I can just ask it. And if it's available and there is no protection, then Copilot will give me the information. So
The reason that you cannot find any results here is because your data has already been labeled and protected.
yeah. Yeah, we are actually, this organization in which I do this is totally built on Teams. So all of our data is in Teams, and all of the permissions are managed via Teams. There is no other data outside unless it's data that is publicly available for the colleagues. So yeah.
But it could be with a customer that hasn't structured or
Absolutely. Yeah.
it gives a result here.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, and you would like to avoid that, of course. So yeah. And this is why the preparation work is an interesting one. Yeah.
All right. We also have a question from the people following from the live stream.
Okay.
For example, Hans, a question from Dietrich.
Mm-hmm.
Can an external expert, for example, a consultant, use his Copilot license to link to his customer's environment to analyze their data?
No.
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 Because we talked in the beginning on conditional access.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there will be measures in place to maybe facilitate those kind of conditional access rules, but it's not in place yet, I assume.
No. So there is a very clear separation between tenants. You can see that when you use Copilot in meetings, if you are not the meeting organizer and you open your Teams and you have a Copilot license, you will see the Copilot icon, but when you click on it, it won't do a thing because you're not the owner. Because if the meeting organizer is from another company, all the data, the chats, the recordings, the transcripts are in the other tenant, and your Copilot will not access them. So basically not.
Okay.
But on terms, maybe you can start inventing, but then you go into the coding. What I showed you with the Copilot Studio is no code. And if you move to the right, you go into the professional code, and then you're in Azure OpenAI Studio, and then you can start building all kinds of scenarios, but always with security in mind.
It's sort of a bit in line with the previous question, I would say. Copilot only digs where it's allowed to go digging.
Yeah.
Other models, like ChatGPT, they consult external sources to give you information, whilst Copilot only navigates within your environment.
Yeah.
And it will never export data from your environment to an external party.
Yeah.
So yes, it's important to do decent data labeling, security governance rules, but it will only operate within your own environment and never pull it externally. Which also has implications for, let's say, if you work with external consultants and so on.
Yeah.
But thanks, Hans. I don't know what are you doing. Okay.
Well, I'm just this is our mails that are, for instance, in my mailbox. I asked, show me all mails from Steph. But it's not going to go into Steph's mailbox. It's only the mails that I have access to. Imagine that it would also go into Steph's mailbox and then like say, and so are there any to-dos for me in these mails, ? So I'm even too lazy to read them. So I'm just going to ask, is there anything that I may have forgotten? And so, let's see, there is one mail that contains a to-do to you, blah, 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 reminding, well, an outstanding invoice, the one that I started it with. So in the end, you get to see it. So, and it's a nice way for me to get back home and say, okay, I'm gonna pay that. So, and then you always see, you can ask, show me the mail. What are the outstanding invoices? Tell me more about CS Works and that company, and so on and so forth. So you get, it's an assistant, right? You can talk with it and you can interact.
Okay, and we have another question. This one is from Mo. He asks, like, okay, how does the language model of Copilot work with meeting transcripts, and how good does it work? For example, he says, I have meetings with non-native English speakers that aren't very clear.
Yeah. What you put in is what comes out. So personally, I feel, I don't know about other experiences, but I have the impression that the transcript is working pretty well, even if you're not a native speaker or you have a weird accent when you speak English or French. It does a fairly good job. But of course, if garbage in, garbage out. So your language model, if it sees it won't translate that into, that guy said X, Y, or Z. No, that's not going to work.
Okay. Then if there aren't any other questions from the people here, I would very much like to thank you, Hans, and thank everyone here live and in the live stream for joining us today on our kickoff for Copilot. I think it's pretty clear that there are a lot of opportunities for you as IT partners to start working with this yourself and also with your customers. Build sales models around it, elevate your own experience, make your own time more productive. I think it's time that we start a new era of AI, the way cloud a couple of years ago revolutionized the total way of working. I think now is the new time with AI. And we're super excited as Climedia to be a partner in this story with you. So we would like to thank you for your trust. Copilot is available in our portal to buy, so please buy it. We will help you along the way. We will provide you with extra content to guide you and your customers in this very exciting journey. So thank you everyone here, and thank you everyone at the live stream. The recording of this event will be available, as also are the slides with every assets that are in the slides will all be made available for you, so you can start experimenting. And we're always here to help. If you have questions, reach out, and we'll do our best.
And so meanwhile, I just asked, can you make a quick slide about the coffee test by Steve Wozniak? And so it's actually a two-phase test. So the one thing is it should be very easy to explain. So, but the other part of the coffee test, and I can clarify and say like, hey, no, it's my coffee test about AI and the robot, because this is generative AI. And Steve Wozniak said, the moment that AI can be put into a robot and you can send that robot to any house wherever in the world, and it's able to make a cup of coffee with whatever is available, then we are at the stage where AI is really going to be at our level. Now, I remember that in December, I said Copilot is still a long way ahead. Nope. It's there. I used to say like the coffee test is still a long way ahead, but now I start being very careful, and maybe by the end of the year we will be there. But yeah, it can go fast.
I guess we'll see. We'll be on this journey together. So thank you very much, Hans. Thank you, everyone, and this concludes our first Copilot kickoff. Thank you.
Thank you.